In recent years, local and federal law enforcement have been encountering more untraceable firearms during their investigations.
That's made ghost guns an increased topic of conversation. To learn more about what a ghost gun is and why some are concerned, Evan Berg spoke with a local gun store and manufacturer.
The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives has reported that the number of ghost guns recovered at crime scenes has dramatically increased over the past decade. But what are ghost guns? And why are new regulations surrounding them hard to implement? To find out more, we talked with 2 by Sea Tactical in New Prague.
When we say guns, we're not talking the entire gun.
According to the ATF, 187 ghost guns were traced in Minnesota between 2017 and 2021. Between 2022 and 2023, that number was 631.
We're talking about the frame receiver of a firearm that has either no serial number, or a lot of times you'll see them throw into the same category guns where the serial number has been removed.
The store's owner, Austin Revel, says privately made firearms have become more popular as the internet, 3D printing, and online shopping have made the parts and knowledge needed to make them more accessible.
You see them used in hunting. A lot of it is people just want to see if they can do it. The engineering mechanics that go into these things is quite extensive.
Revel says privately made firearms become more of a problem if the maker tries to distribute them without going through a licensed seller and getting a serial number, which would violate the Federal Gun Control Act of 1968. Serial numbers are meant to make commercial firearms more traceable in the event of a crime.
If you're building something for yourself, it is federally legal. You can build something for yourself as long as it never enters commerce. That's the key.
In recent years, some Minnesota legislators have tried to pass laws to make serial numbers mandatory for homemade guns. But Revel says new laws like that could be hard to enforce.
On a personally made firearm, who do you go back to? You have no idea. It's not like they're registered manufacturers or anything. You have no starting point.
In New Prague, Evan Berg, KEYC News Now.
The store says in order to avoid concerns from local law enforcement, amateur gunsmiths should remember to double-check state and local laws surrounding the type of gun they're making and to avoid distribution of any kind, even as a gift.